How is everybody doing? And welcome back for another Strength Chat episode. I'm not going to lie, I'm pretty excited for this one. It's been a while in the pipeline, but he's finally on. A Strength Chat veteran. This is his fourth appearance, I think, on there.
Fourth time, mate. Fourth time.
Fourth
I'm on the
time.
leaderboard.
The founder of Aesthetically Trained, and I'm probably going to say it now. I'm going to say my coach now. Obviously, I'm part of Aesthetically Trained now as well. Today, I'm joined by the man, the myth, the legend that is Ross Mackenley. How are you doing?
Yo, as I say at the beginning. Thanks, mate. That's a big, impressive entry and talk up at the beginning. So I'll try not to let people down. I have been on 4 times, so I'm good at talking. I will tell you all that ahead of time. I will go off on tangents and I will give you several stories along the way. But thank you for inviting us on. I'm sorry that I was a little bit late, as we just said. If you go on my Instagram today, everyone that's watching, or you go back when we share this, I will share the incredible setup that I have in my room. It's not my usual setup, and that is a sarcastic tone. You might notice that I'm balancing my laptop on several things. So if at any time you hear a crack, don't worry, it is just my Mac falling to the floor.
But we persevere. We keep going. And I know, obviously, quite a lot of things have been going on. Obviously, I mean, we'll touch on a couple of things, but being snowboarding, a couple of lads from Aesthetic Training went over with you as well.
Yeah.
What's been happening? What's been happening in your world recently? What's been going on?
So I'm currently in Switzerland. So that is the reason that I'm kind of throwing together a bit of a setup for the podcast. And Steve actually very kindly has asked us to come on several times recently, and I've wanted to come talk to you, haven't I? But the thing has been, I've been traveling. Where was that? I was in Australia, I think, when we first spoke, and the time zones didn't quite match. Then I went back sort of west, if you like. I was in Dubai, and then now I'm back in Europe, and I've been snowboarding. Last week, our first aesthetically trained snowboarding event. So I had 6 lads from aesthetically trained come out and snowboard with us, which was absolutely sick. And you'll be glad to know that only one person got injured. They did break their wrist. But don't worry about that. You still had a great time. So shout out to Dom for giving it a go. But that was incredible. Just in that week alone, we had a guy from Wales as well, Michael. Big Michael Hunt. He was 56, or he is 56 years old, learned to snowboard for the first time. And that was incredible for us, because obviously now aesthetically trains at the point, and you're a part of the team as well, where it's not just, there's a reason that it isn't Ross McKenley Fitness. The idea is that it's a community that men want to be a part of, it, not just for the training, although that is the main vehicle and the way that I like to try to change people's lives, but also to give them an opportunity to do events, training, opportunities, snowboarding. I'd love to take people to Everest. I keep saying that now publicly because I think that's a fucking great one for the future. But to do these things that maybe you listening, you thought you couldn't do with your friends or with your family or with your partner. So that's what I'm trying to do in an online world, if you like, and then bringing it into reality.
Yeah, and I think I know for me, I mean, for anyone listening, obviously Ross has been on a couple of episodes before, and I know we've spoken about training and
Yeah,
muscle building and all those sorts of things. But actually, I think the more that we've chatted, got to know each other and spoken about training, I think there's more to it than the training than the training side of things. Obviously, nutrition as well. And I think for exactly like what you said there, Aesthetically Trained has grown, which from seeing the lives that you've done in the Facebook groups, you can see how excited and how much it means to you. And actually, the buy-in from the lads that you get is awesome to see. Yeah. And what I kind of wanted to do is just go through sort of the full sequence of events of programs, of how the process creates, because like I say, we could talk about reps and sets and exercises and that sort of stuff, but actually one of the big things that I know for me especially, and we'll touch on this, starting the 28-day challenge, which is obviously the entry point, if you like, to be working with you. That's exactly what I needed at that time. It's that, and the biggest thing that always goes through it, I've actually got it on my phone. If you say you're going to do something, do it, what you commit to. Yeah. So I have my lists, and I'm like, right, this is what we're going to do, which is sometimes, even as a coach myself, you need that kick up the ass to do it. So I just kind of wanted to touch on, and I can give my perspective on it as well. But the 28-day challenge, what does that entail, and why is it so tough at the start as a platform builder?
Yeah. So I think every coach, first and foremost, every coach should have an entry level point. The reason that I use the 28-day challenge, there's a few reasons behind it. I think it's a fantastic test for men. So to really put yourself up against it for 28 days, it's short enough to be able to see that the light at the end of the tunnel straight away, if you like. We try to teach you as much as we can in that period, but obviously it's only 28 days. The goal, and what I believe where some people fall short with transformation and in general in health and fitness, is that you sometimes stop doing the best you can, or you stop maybe chasing whatever your goal is because you know you can't be optimal. So like people will say like, oh, well, I can't train 5 times a week, 6 times a week. I can't do it. They're looking for the perfect window, or they're looking for that time where everything has to be right. And if they can't do that, instead of doing, if I'm imagine 100%, people will say, right, well, I can't do 100. I'm not going to bother doing 80 or 60. What's the point? I'm just going to do nothing until it's right. The 28-day challenge, although it's marketed in quite an all or nothing way, my full intention is teaching people during it, like essentially trying to break them and make them realize along the way that, like, even though what I talk about, even though what I preach on social media, when I'm like swearing at people, calling them everything, I'll not ruin your YouTube monetization and stuff, Steve, by swear on this. I'll try not to. But when I'm doing all that, it is kind of like, I wouldn't call it an alter ego, but it's certainly the initial time that people meet us. That is what you need initially, I believe. And then along the way, once I know that people are willing to give us at least attempt 100%, and I find that limit, and it's different for every man that I work with, the 28 days actually, contrary to probably the initial thing of it being a challenge, is actually saying, do you know what, this is your limit. We've found it. Well done for finding it. You're willing to get there. And whether that could be that you realize that you get irritable when you diet, could be that it's just simply not possible in terms of time, could be that your work's suffering, could be that your relationships actually get worse during the 28-day challenge, could be that you just find that you're not as nice a person. Like I say, all of these things, very normal, by the way. Could be that you question, is it worth it? You question what I'm telling you. I'm actually wanting you to find those points, because by knowing your limits, we can then scale back and say, do you know what? First and foremost, well done for fucking finding them. Swore there, Steve, but we're into it now.
It's all
well
right.
done for finding them. Well done for finding them, because a lot of men always wonder what if. So that 28-day challenge is an opportunity for me to say, right, here is the community and the support. So all the other men in the group. Here's me teaching you how to set up a diet, all the information that you need, which will last you far beyond the 28 days. Here's a training program, which is absolutely brutal. Like, it's really, really hard work. Here's your cardio minute, which is every single day. Now, even me just saying this now, some people will get nervous and anxious and think, oh my God, I can't do it. That is kind of exactly the point. People are like, well, why would that be the point? Because you need to know what your limits are to then find them and come back to work out your own non-negotiables, which will be different for every single person that I work with. So during that 28 days, and again, going back to where I think people go a little bit wrong, when you start at university, I've used this analogy loads of times, or when someone becomes a mechanic, they don't say, oh, I'm not going to fucking bother because I have to go and learn something for 2 years. Oh, I don't want to, I don't want my sports science degree because for 2 years I have to go to uni. Or, oh, I'm not going to, whatever it is, people offshore getting their tickets for work, people working on machines, whatever it is, you'll have to do some form of training. You wouldn't let that get in the way of the job at the end of it or what you want. And it's the same with your training. The lessons that we'll get from that 28 days then give word, and this is the really big word that I think is massive when it comes to transformations, the self-belief to continue in the long term. And the reason that I do it in 28 days, to round off this very long explanation, is that by having it in 28 days, it's tangible, something that we all know. It's 4 weeks. You can see the end right away, as I said at the beginning. But also then once you've done that 28 days, that self-belief that we get, then that's inside you, both in terms of what your limits are, what's likely going to happen when you push those limits, so you know what your boundaries are, which are important in a transformation too. And then that self-confidence that comes from, I've completed the 28-day challenge. I've done it, because people do drop out. But then that belief that you get then allows you to start making progress and targets over 12 weeks, 6 months, a year and beyond. But if you didn't do that in the beginning, I think it's very difficult to convince someone of a long-term change. Sometimes some men don't have the self-belief. So that's what it's all about. It's a challenge, and obviously men rise to challenges.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think everything that there's a couple of things that you touched on there. Everything that you were saying, it's a little bit like what we said at the start. It's not necessarily about the training. Yeah, the training's tough. Yeah, getting the cardio in is tough. But I think it's that self-belief and confidence, because if anyone's wanting to change anything, I know, again, I'll just use myself as an example. I was probably a little bit low in confidence, a little bit low in motivation in terms of what I wanted to do. But actually, it's that thing of, exactly like what you said. What are the limits? What can you actually do? Because there's all those things there that you've listed that people, they want to be. They want to be going to the gym regularly. They want to be eating well. They want to be, fit that into their lifestyle, but they just don't know how. I think on the 28-day challenge that we did in October, I think there was like lads who were like working night shifts and all sorts, and just showing what they can actually do. And it wasn't a case of they might not have got everything done perfectly, but it just goes to show that if you commit to something, that intent I think is useful. One thing from there in terms of obviously when you're saying there about as the challenge went on, I know obviously you mentioned about look, this is going to be tough. The goal is just getting to the end. Do you think where sometimes people fall down when they're doing challenges like this is that they just think that doing the exercises is going to get them to where they want to be, rather than having it as a shift in kind of like lifestyle and mindset around just doing what they say they were going to do, if that kind of makes sense?
Yeah, well, so what I said initially, right? If you imagine you're not in shape, or even if you are in shape and you start working with a coach, right? You're paying money, so you're investing money and time into that coach. You have a level of expectation of change. So like right away, you're thinking like, right, I want X, Y, and Z to happen. Now that could be a number on the scale, could be how you feel, could be performance in the gym, could be information diet, whatever it is, right? But sometimes in the beginning, in particular, that initial change, we've all remember the first time that we went to the gym, or the first time that we started dieting, or you start prepping your meals, or the first time you do anything, it's the hardest, isn't it? So it's getting used to that habit. Now, for me, if that's the case, and I know that the first time I do something, it's going to be hard, I want the most bang for my buck in the first time that I'm doing it, and later on, I'll worry about making it easier. Because if I lose you, if you're working with me, and let's say we're doing like lifestyle, and we'll get onto that because as you know, we'll come to that in terms of the inner circle and what's next and all these other things. But actually, in the beginning, if you've paid a coach and you're expecting a change, or you've started working with a personal trainer and your motivation is at its highest, so when you sign up for something, when people apply to work with me in the 28 days, that is when they're in the most pain, right? Whether you want to use pain as the word, whether you want to use motivate, however you want to put it. Some men want a challenge, some men want help, right? They both come to me. Now, at that point, when we're trying to get them a change, what should I do? Should I say, look, lads, we're going to just take it steady, but in like 12 weeks to 6 months, you're going to see a good result? Or let's capitalize on where they're at and say, actually, can we do something in the next 28 days that's drastic? Reassure them that it isn't forever. So that's clear. And I think maybe if I was someone else trying to tear down my methodology and what I do, I would say, oh, well, it's not sustainable. It's not meant to be sustainable. That is literally the whole point of what I'm doing. It's meant to be against the grain initially to, like I said before, that self-belief, that confidence. So by doing that and giving people all of the information, showing them what optimal is and teaching them it, then moving forward, like you said before, people's expectation is closer to the reality then, I believe, as opposed to like, if you say, for example, follow me on social media, you look at the transformations that I put up, or maybe you follow other coaches, whoever it is, and you have an idea in your head about what training is, and everyone, by the way, every man at some point, or most men, have an idea of what it takes to get in shape. Anyone on the street, what do you need to do? Oh, I need to go to the gym 3 times a week. I need to go to them 4 times a week. Whatever. Now, most PTs in that scenario will agree with the person because it's quite a saturated industry and they want to sign them up and they want to take the money. What I like to do is say, no. If you want to get in shape, here is what you need to do. This is more or less non-negotiable. There's a minimum. Like everyone trains 4 times a week in the 28-day challenge. I don't think that's ridiculous, right? However, to full disclosure, some men do train 7 days a week. There is an option to do that. You will get better results doing that for 28 days. So that's but giving them that information. So it's very, very clear. It's not, there's no gray, it's black and white. It's this is your cardio minutes, this is what you're doing. This is your diet. This is exactly what I expect you to do. I check your diet for you. It's all weird. So for me, that's better coaching because you're getting my actual time, knowledge, experience, and I'm giving you clear criteria for success or fail. You do this, you'll get results. You don't do this, you're going to fuck up, right? Most PTs, I would say, or a lot of people now, whether it's because of the state that the world's in, we could talk about that all day, why it is, but I feel that a lot of people now take a slow approach to training, and it's more about being flexible, and it's more about slowly making a change. Like we're going to change one thing at a time. For me, if I'm paying money, I wouldn't go to a mechanic and get one tire fixed at a time and drive around with a three flat, would I? Do you know what I mean? I'd want all four done at once. So like you want the job done properly and done right away, and then you can deal with actually, do you know what? Maybe in the long run, I don't see myself doing cardio every single day. All right, well, I can work with that then. But let's get some. You've got to follow the rules before you can break them. You've got to get you some belief before we can start taking things away.
Yeah, I think that's what you, and that, I think for sometimes touching on that point of starting off too slow. Like, yes, 100%. There's times where things can be slowed down. But I think some people get the wrong idea that for a challenge like that, it's like military position 24/7, and that carries on forever, which isn't that's not the case. But sometimes it's a little bit similar to when people have had like injuries or that sort of stuff. If something needs to change, if you need to improve on something, I used to use the word like you need to be aggressive with it. So if you've got like injuries, I would much rather like hone in on that. Right, let's get this sorted now, and then we can get cracking on with the rest of the training. Rather than if you take it slowly, you don't know whether it's going to work because it just takes too long, and then you're going to get fed up with it. I think it's more of just like actual make big changes so you can actually see big results. If you only change like it's not big enough to actually see any noticeable change. Whereas what you've said there in terms of the rules that you set out, like for me the biggest thing was, I'm not gonna lie, I'm probably gonna put cardio on the back burner quite a lot, but it was just that case of this is the cardio minutes this is the cardio minutes that you've got, and it's not a case of what in terms of a breakdown of it, it's that thing of, look, you're at this weight, you're at this body fat percentage, this is what you need to do. It's not a case of like, oh well, you can maybe do this. It's like this is what we're going to do, which I think sometimes people want those answers. People want that, right? This is what you're going to do. With that,
I think just on that, mate, just to jump in, I think that comes. So my personal opinion on that is that I would rather be told like exactly what's expected of us, and then I can aim for it. And then if I fall short, I fall short, but at least I know what I should be trying to do. And going back to right at the beginning, when I talked about being optimal, 100%. When I'm teaching you in the group, when you've seen this, I'm talking about MPS, muscle protein synthesis throughout the day. I'm talking about how many hours sleep you need to get. I'm talking about your training in terms of mechanical tension and stimulating hypertrophy. And I'll give you all the information at the highest level. Then I'll break it down to layman's terms. And I'll work with each person on where they're at and then try to drag them forward. But if I'm not teaching you, or at least available, or of the level of knowledge to know what we're aiming for and break it down, what are you paying us for? Like, because essentially, like for me, that's just me doing my job. That's the bare minimum I would expect of a coach. Like, realize where everyone's at, know what we're aiming towards, and then each person. One of the things I do in the 28 days, remember, it's like, what obstacles do you have this week? What problems do you have? Have you got a night out? You had a firm, right? I think it was you went away for one weekend for your girlfriend's birthday, or your birthday, maybe at a spa or something.
yeah.
So do you remember? So that's the thing. So then in the group we'll have a video and we'll say, right, who's got a question this week? Steve puts his hand up. Actually, I'm going away this weekend. It's my lass's birthday. We're going to a spa. It's already been booked. Right, sound. Here's how I would work around that. Here's what you need to do. So not just a game, it's taking like extreme ownership, like full accountability for what's going on. Steve, you are going to go away for that weekend. You're gonna go you're definitely gonna have a meal off plan. It's your girlfriend's birthday. You're not gonna get away with that, right? And even if you could, you wouldn't want to. It's an important event. So how can we work around it? You need to do a low day or a rest day diet the day before and still train. The day off, you need to lower your calories. You're having that allowance around the meal. The day after, you do a little bit lower in terms of calories. Oh, and on all 3 days, you're going to do some additional cardio. Is that perfect? Well, it's not perfect, but it's doing the best you can do in the situation. It gives you peace of mind that you've done what you could, and it makes you feel like you're making progress. And you just, for me as well, it's a trust thing. So if I like open up everyone and say, look, you can tell us anything that you're doing, and I'll come up with a solution to you. But if you hide it, the problem for anyone listening online, if you work with a coach, me, Steve, anyone, and you don't tell them about social occasions, or you don't tell them about the times that you undereat, overeat, or anything that isn't on your plan, it's not that we're going to tell you off. It's that we want you to get the best results possible. Like for you, we want to do the best job we can. If you tell me that you're having 2,000 calories and you're actually having 2,500, then obviously the diet's not going to work. Equally, if you're under eating, and this is probably more common, I actually think, is under eating on a diet. and that people will justify under eating with things like, well, it's said to have salmon or steak for my tea, but I know that maybe it's there a little bit bigger. So I had chicken instead, or like of your own accord, you'll decide that like, oh well, do you know what? I just couldn't get all the carbs in, so I didn't eat them. Right. Well, funny enough, you're paying me money, so I'll make that decision for you. And also, like in terms of the process, if you're doing that, you essentially cut your nose off to spite your face because yes, in week one, you might feel great in front of the group and be like, oh, I've lost weight. But actually, there's a disconnect there because you're eating less than I thought you were eating. So in week two and week three, and eventually when you plateau, I'll make changes to your plan. I'll tell you how to make the changes to your plan, and we'll lower it down. And then you won't make any changes. All of a sudden, you're panicking, thinking that it isn't working. I'm wondering why it isn't working. So it's about having that constant feedback. And as well, there, massive tangent here. However, with that and checking in and the process in general, do weekly check-ins in the 28 days, but in general in the transformation, it's only ever one check-in. Like people, I still have this now, right? 12-week transformation clients, inner circle lads, 20 days across the board. People only like checking in when it's good, like when they're going to get like a biscuit or when they're going to get like a pat on the back, right? That's the only time they want to check in. Then sometimes they go, oh, I haven't checked in for a few weeks. I've been struggling with the diet. And I'm like, well, do you know when you should have fucking checked in? The first week you're struggling with the diet. Because as a coach, and by the way, you go, again, I love using the mechanic analogy because one of my best mates is a mechanic. If you go to a mechanic and they like their job, they're fucking happy to fucking check your engine oil or to do anything to your car. They're thinking about, like, they want to do it. They want your car to run the best it can. If you come to me and you tell us that you're struggling with your diet, I don't mind making changes. It's you that doesn't like it. That's why you're paying me money. Let me do my job. Tell us what's going on, and I'll come up with a solution. And sometimes it's a fun solution. Sometimes it's that you've got to do more cardio. But together and that communication. Did you find that when you're doing it, Steve? Did you find the communication, the honesty in the group was good?
Definitely, and that's what I was going to touch on really, because part of the reason why I probably did it in October is that it was my birthday, it was my missus's birthday, and then I'm sure there was like a third thing that I had as well, and it was kind of like, well, why not do it then? Let's let's see. And actually, it was that thing of I still lost weight, I still got it done from there, still had great, like missus still enjoyed her birthday. It was really good. I had a good birthday, and it was that thing of like, all right, well, let's just put it out there. And actually, I think sometimes, like, and from my point of view, it kind of made me feel like, all right, so there's a plan there. Whereas actually, if you don't ask, you're probably gonna, or most people would just have that thought process of being like, oh, well, I'll just have a massive blowout then, and then all of a sudden, it just all those rules just go out the window. And like what you say, because of the amount of information out there, like you say, if people want to know how to lose weight, they'll be, oh well, I just need to eat a little bit less, don't eat a little bit of that. So they'll think they can change things themselves, whereas a lot of examples that you use there, it's like there's a reason why you're asking why you're working with a coach. Like, you wouldn't go to your doctors and then tell them what you feel like you need. You'd let the doctor
tell you. Exactly, yeah.
And that's the thing where, like, I think, and we'll dive into this a little bit more, where in that short space of time, it's like, look, this is what we need to focus on. And a lot of it is, and you kind of touched on it there, is just that trust. And I think, yes, there's things that are set in stone that you need to do, but I think once that sort of that barrier is broken down, you said at the start, either people have their pain point, or they just want help.
Yeah.
Once they've got that trust, then the more inclined to be like, right, buy into the process. Which I want to touch on the 50-week challenge, because when you announced it, honest, I thought all the lads that put their hands up to do it, I thought they were ready to fight lions. I thought they were going to be like,
it was class, wasn't it?
Yeah, I thought we were going to like. I was ready. I don't know. I just felt like, I thought we were just ready to like take on the world. I was like, right, let's go. And I think, do you think that the take up from that was because of the foundation that was laid in the 28-day challenge, and that trust that you've built as a coach as well?
It's everything. So like, it's everything. So like for me, I kind of start off going back to it in the 28 days quite harsh. It's like my coaching style, I would say, initially is aggressive, like Steve mentioned before. In some respects, quite standoffish. So like for everyone that watches, you might think about doing the 28-day challenge. You don't have a lot of direct contact with me during the 28 days. Your main contact is through the videos. Then me following up with you. If you go missing or something goes wrong, I will reach out to you, of course. But I've got Connor, I've got Duncan, I've got coaches in the group helping as well. But there is a little bit of exclusivity even in the 28 days, in that my position is I'm like the head coach. I'm doing the videos. You have to kind of like, so, and what it does is it creates authority, and that's done intentionally. So the idea is like Duncan and Connor will give you some advice, but if I say something, you're fucking doing it, like within reason. It's like, and then I'll come in and sometimes and say, actually, just to agree with Duncan, you need to do this. Just to agree with Connor. Connor, by the way, same as me and Steve's got his sports science degree, also coached loads of people, helped us for several years and aesthetically trained. So there's not like there's any difference in the knowledge. It's just obviously you want the fucking main man telling you. So I'll come in sometimes and say that. I'm doing videos every week. But then once you finish the 28 days, and this is really important, like anything, there has to be some reward or some sense of actually we've done something together here. And I've actually learned about this afterwards, but why I think in hindsight over the years, I didn't do this intentionally. Well, kind of. I think I kind of knew what I was doing, but maybe it's not. And then later on, when I've looked at psychology and how men bond, so men bond through stress bonding, the women bond to for oxytocin. There's loads of, we could get into a whole different debate there. However, men, stress bonding, right? Think sports teams, services, military service, challenges together. If you go hiking with one of your mates and you've got a map and you do it together, putting up, setting up a tent, barbecues, challenges. Men like challenges, right? And bonding through them. So at the end, you went through the 28 days with me. All of a sudden, we've got a little bit of a link. We've got a little bit of a you trust me, I trust you. I know that you can with it. So in the inner circle and in the 50-week challenge, which is a part of the inner circle now, and in the 12 weeks, we'll have that next step of relationship, if you like. As funny as it sounds, calling it a relationship, but where I'm like, right, I trust you now. You trust me. I don't have to be quite as much of a dick with you. If you want to eat a meal with your family at night, I'm going to trust you to do that. You can factor that into your plan. We can have a number of calories for it, but I need the rest of your day to be pretty strict. A lot of the lads will do that as an example. If you really, really hate doing the rower for cardio, which I put a lot into the 28 days, by the way, and for whatever reason you just really don't like it, I'm now at a point where I'm willing to listen to you that you don't want to do the rower. I still might put it in a little bit, but I'll say, listen, if you don't want to do that for your minutes, maybe it's you love swimming, you can do swimming, as long as the results keep coming, by the way. And that's the key thing. The whole relationship and the whole foundation of what I do is built on progress, results, and keeping you accountable. So if at any one time, and men do this still, by the way, they like to test boundaries. Sometimes they might not check in, sometimes they might not get in touch with us, might not reply to a message, and sometimes I have to follow up with them. I could show you on Facebook Messenger 3 or 4 times. Listen, you've not checked in. I've kicked people out of the program before. Like I've just said to people, I don't think it's for you. I'm not happy just taking people's money if they're not making progress. But all of this builds up to, like Steve mentioned there, being able to come with ideas and challenges for the group that are beyond the scope of just 28 days. So one of the things that we're doing in the inner circle at the minute is this 50-week challenge. And for those of you listening, watching on YouTube, make sure you like and subscribe to Steve's thing. We should always remember you to do that. Make sure you hit that button. But the 50-week challenge is, like I mentioned at the beginning, everyone knows what they probably should do. And me as a coach, I wrote down, right, if everyone in the group could do the bare minimum, what does the bare minimum look like? How do I then set that up across a year? And what would be some form of way to basically hold them accountable to that every single week? Very, very basic, this, and Steve will attest to it, right? Train 3 times a week. Now, everyone can do that, can't they? It's not even the 4 that I mentioned at the beginning. It's not even the 6 or 7 in the 20 days. It's 3. Now, ideally, it would be 4. But let's just say you have a bad week. You're on holiday. You're stressed at home. You have an argument with your life. Kids are annoying you. Whatever happens in your life that might stop you from training. Can you still train 3 times? Can we make 3 sessions a week the absolute minimum? And what I've done, and to give you a bit of an insight of this, why I chose these numbers is I looked at everyone in the group, and over my years, I've been coaching like nearly 10 years now, over 10 years, unofficially, looked at everyone I'd worked with, and I looked at the trends. And what I found was the people who were in the best shape just still found a way to get the training in. They still done the check-ins. They uploaded videos to the group. They asked the questions. They've done all the things that deep down, if you're working with a coach, and especially by the point, going back to the original point, you've earned the trust. You know that it works. You know me a little bit better. We're not taking our foot off the gas. We're just changing the direction of the climb. 28-day challenge is vertical. It's like this. The rate of progress, you're losing on average 5.8 kilos in 28 days. What we're then saying is, right, for the next 50 weeks, how can we keep losing half a kilo every other week? Well, if you look at that, we're talking about, if you're looking at fat loss, we're talking about around 24 kilos, 25 kilos of fat loss in a year. If everyone listening to this now, particularly like someone really want to lose a serious amount of weight, if you said, "Oh, I'm going to lose 25 kilos," that's massive. It's life changing. For most people, it'll be probably about a quarter of your body weight, depending on how big you are. But then if I said to you, "Well, you've just lost on average over 800 men through the 28 days. On the average weight loss for every single person you know is 5.8 kilos. They've just done that. I'm saying to them, right, we've just seen what you can do when you really need to. Now, can you just give us at least, and that's the word, right, at least the bare minimum? And then from there, all of a sudden, like Steve said, the camaraderie and the hype around it was like everyone was like, I can do that. I can definitely post a video every couple of weeks. I can just because so I didn't need to sell it to them, they're already in the program. But my point was, look, if you look at me, if you look at people off the top of my head in the group, give them a little shout out. Matt Hardy, Jason Blanes, people of different ages. Matt works shifts, Jason's a trainer, all these different people. And if I look historically across my programs and the people online who get the best results, that's what they do. How can I just take that to Steve too? And as well, by the way, everyone, Steve is fucking unbelievably strong. So it's not necessarily him and he's a coach. He knows what he's doing. But for all the lads in the group, because sometimes, again, going back to the beginning of the point and finishing off a very long answer, sometimes we'll look at the people who are the best, right? By the way, everyone's got their own obstacles, their own hurdles. So what you think the best is, they might have a terrible home life. They might be working even harder. They might be training really hard to battle some inner demons. So I would never judge someone just purely on their physique. You need to get to know them and what comes with it. But in terms of physique and strength and the transformation, if you look at the people that's the best in the group, what were the habits? But sometimes those who aren't, those who are aiming at them say, I'll never be that person. I started too late. I'm not strong enough. I haven't got the time. I've got 4 kids and they haven't got any. My gym isn't good enough. All of these excuses, these reasons, I'm going, well, how am I going to actually? And I know because I'm a coach. That isn't actually the case with them. Then there's some weeks where they only train 3 times. So it was moving the bar and also alongside that, getting everyone together to achieve more.
Yeah, and I think that's obviously you said a couple of names from there, and being able to see what you can do, what's the minimum that you need to do, because not everything's going to be the same again. And actually, what I thought was really good, and we'll do touch on this a little bit more. What you said at the start is that like aesthetically trained is like more than you, like just you, if you like. And actually, because I think people want to be like attached to something. That's what I've always said. This. That's why CrossFit has such a big following, and people would like live, breathe, die for their CrossFit club, because I think the community and the culture that they have is really good. And actually,
and that's what I want, Steve. That's what we're building.
Definitely. Do you know what? I've pinned my colour to your mask now. That's it. World domination. But the lads in the lads in the group, they're there not to be like. I don't know how to put it. Not there to be like, oh, look at this guy. It's that case of like, look, he's doing the same as you. It's just a case of like he's maybe just a little bit further down the line. I think it was, was it Matt Hardy that he's been training with you for 4 years and he's done.
Yeah.
Is that yeah? And I
thought, Matt's trained was a long time.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I'm speaking about him as if I know him. I don't think I've actually spoken to him. However, as an example, it's not there a case of like, oh my God, like I'm never gonna get to that. But he's still putting in that he's doing this and he's doing that and he's helping the other lads out, being like, look, I've not been able to do this. I'm trying to do this, because he's got into that routine. And I think that's the culture is what sets things apart. I read it's a good book. It's called The Barcelona Way, and it's about like, you either become part of a culture or you like create a culture. And sometimes you can get into that habit of like, skipping the gym or not being able to do things. Whereas everything that you've said there, we've said about the 28-day challenge, and we'll touch on this a little bit like with yourself as well, traveling, being away, not training in the gym all at the same time, the events that, you put on as well, all these things that you can still enjoy. But it doesn't mean to say that all of a sudden you're like, well, actually, I'm just gonna stop training. I'm gonna stop doing this, because it's a manageable task that you've set out to do, rather than being like, well, I'm just gonna do this because I think you know best. Whereas actually staying part of that group will go from there.
Culture's everything. Just on that to jump in, mate. Like culture's everything. Like in sports teams, obviously. You like your rugby. I'm a big fan of football. I like my NFL. Like all sport, elite athletes, like their mindset and everything around it. And whilst we're not elite athletes, doesn't mean we shouldn't take lessons from them. And I think like for everyone in the group, what we're talking about here, to be clear, I'm not saying the training, and I'm not one of them online coaches, by the way, who'll say, or coach in general, who'll be like, you can train 3 times a week for 20 minutes and you can have your cake and eat it and you're still going to get abs. That's normally a load of shite and they're normally taking steroids and that's why they're getting away with these things. You have to also be aware of that. What I'm saying is how can we create a foundation so that when you have weeks that you normally would have missed, you get to the gym and do the session? How can I encourage the men in the group who, again, like being really honest, it's an online coaching program. What's it down for? I'm looking at things from a competitor's point of view or people who are trying to compete with and think, right, well, what could they do better? Well, if you're an in-person PT, you could get someone in the gym who's working with me and maybe, theoretically you could get better results. But what I'd argue is that the attention to detail in the training program is far more than what a PT would give. I'm there online to support them. We've got the camaraderie from the group and also linking into 50-week challenge. If someone shares regular video content in the group, they're doing two things, right? They're getting feedback from not just me, but from people in the group who are very strong. Yourself, who's also, I would class you as an expert. Matt Hardy, who Steve mentioned before, has deadlifted 250 naturally, which is a massive deadlift at like 100 kilo body weight. There's other men in the group, Jason, who I mentioned there, in his 50s, deadlifting over 2.5 times body weight. There's loads of people who are more like you, the person listening to this, not me. As Steve mentioned, I'm traveling the world. This has been my life. Like, I've not worked a proper job in over 10 years. I retired when I left my gym years ago, as far as I'm concerned. This is my dream. I'm living it. If I'm not enthusiastic and passionate about training, who the fuck is going to be? So don't compare yourself to me. Don't compare yourself to anyone, but take lessons from people who are like you, who've overcome similar obstacles. I haven't got any kids. I've never worked a night shift in my life. I tell you what, I've helped hundreds of men who have. So I can actually say to you, listen, mate, I know that's going to be tough. Here's what you need to do. Pushing people out of their comfort zone. Videos is a big one, particularly there's this craze at the minute of people complaining about being videoed and all that in the gym. It's difficult for men. I understand. I was that kid once, although it was several years ago, like propping my phone up against a bench trying to video my deadlift. So I had to ask one of my friends. Eventually, you get over the embarrassment. And what I would say is with that, and I've got loads of examples. There's a guy at the minute working with us in Scotland. I'll give him a shout out because I listen to called Gary James Simpson up in Scotland, right? And I'm not joking. When he started with me, his deadlift was absolute dog shit. I mean, one of the worst deadlifts. He was a danger to himself and other people in the gym with this deadlift, right? Because God forbid someone thought that was him in a deadlift, right? Obviously, and some people might take offense to that. You shouldn't say it. It's not my fucking problem his deadlift was like that. Sorry, it is my problem. It's not my problem that it's like that at the start. It's my problem to fix it, right? It's no good watching a video of him deadlift and going, do you know what, mate? Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, I tell you what to do. You need to fucking stop deadlifting, mate. Here's what we need to do. Loads of regressions, Dorian deadlifts, all the else. Do you know how his deadlift is now? It's beautiful. It's great. It's a work of art. It's getting there. It's not quite there, but it's much, much better. And this lad, Gary, right, he sends me a video, bless him, every single fucking workout, right? Every workout. I know in the beginning he was a little bit nervous. And I said, listen, Gary, if you can get me videos of your training, here's why that's going to be a big difference. Can you post them in the group? Can you send them to me? Whatever it is. If he'd never done that, going back to the advantage versus a local PT, what I'm saying to lads is, send me the video. I'll fucking watch it. It's my job. I love watching people train. I'll say to you, your tempo could be better. Are you feeling that through your hamstrings? Are you actually hip hinging? Are you loading your lower back? How are you switching your lats on? Imagine squeezing a tennis ball in your lats. What are you doing here? Is your elbow coming across your chest to contract your pec? All these different coaching cues. Some things you don't get online. I can give you all the notes and the coaching cues in the world, but I tell you what, if you're willing to take a video, I can tell you in about 3 seconds what you're doing wrong. And also, I can tell you what you're doing right. One of the most beautiful things I like in the group, and Steve's seen it, because Steve's one of the guys that gets it. People think you get in shape, and there's that old classic meme of like you've got good biceps and like women are flocking around you. Oh no, obviously I only train men. However, he puts a video up of his big bad deadlift, and it's all just men commenting like, "Oh my god, look at the weight on this and how strong is this," and just throwing themselves up. It is, and it's that community. It's bros. It's like going back to it. It's for me. It's team sport. It's camaraderie. It's slapping each other on the back and saying, "Listen, mate, that was class. Let's go again. You can do more." When you have a bad day, or when you need help, it's people putting an arm around the shoulder and saying, "Listen, that was shit. Sorry that it's happened to you or whatever. How can we help? How can we get you through it? What have you got to look forward to? How can I make this experience a little bit better for you? How can this group give you the support to get through what you're going through?" And by doing that, and encouraging them, and that's the main one. I think with the 50-week challenge, mate, why I've brought that up is that there's been lads in the inner circle. Again, this was me looking at right, there's some people I've worked with for 2 years, 3 years. They don't have to post videos, by the way. So some people, like, when they're off, just nipping when I'm saying that, like, you don't have to, right?
Yeah.
But what I'm talking about, in an ideal world, what can I do to stretch a little bit more out with them? I had lads that I've worked with, this lad called Zeph in Manchester, right? He's always been losing weight, getting in good shape. I knew he was quite strong. Put up a video the other day of him benching 100 for like 3 sets 8, and I was like, Zeph, for one thing, it's the first video you've ever put in the group in like 2 years. And he was like, well, his answer was, well, I'm in the 50-week challenge now. So I thought, because one of the goals, linking this all in for everyone, one of the targets was, like I said, well, train 3 times a week, check in every fortnight, put a video in the group every 2 weeks. And the reason for that, linking it all the way back round, other people comment on your videos, it builds that support, builds a community. People then know who you are, gives me a chance to give feedback, but also for you, feels good if you put a video in the group and someone goes, you know what, mate, you're a bit of a strong cunt, you, like, well
Yeah.
done, what's going on? And
I
it all
don't.
of us, it's great, isn't it? And you've experienced that yourself.
Yeah, I don't speak to my missus anymore. I just post it in there and be like, I'm just gonna put it out. No, I completely agree, and I think that's that thing where, kind of like two things as you were saying there. I think people have that idea that when they're going to the gym, it has to be, like just them headphones in, never speaking to anybody, not doing anything. Don't make me wrong. There's times when I'll go into the gym and I just want to get my stuff done, and I just want to go. That's fine. However, there's a reason why, like, we like going out for a beer, going out for meals, because we're social people, and I think we've in terms of like attaching yourself to something, like what you said there, football fan, rugby fan, we all have our teams, we all have the things that we follow because we want to feel a part of it. And I think that's where, when people feel as though, going back to the start about the 28-day challenge, that yes, it might be daunting, overwhelming and aggressive at the start, but then actually, like, I mean, I don't know whether initiations are a thing anymore now, but I remember joining a rugby team. You get your initiation, and then that's it. You become part of that. And then you've done that now, and then you're part of that. And then all of a sudden, it's like, right, well, you don't have to do Edward Ciderhands or whatever the initiations were. But that's the thing where you feel a part of it. And as well, that feeling of like, oh, you're going to be daft because you're doing your videos or anything like that. Well, no, that's how you grow and get better. And all of a sudden, you get more confident in the gym. You're seeing that actually, you can push yourself a little bit. A prime example for me, Dorian's was an exercise that I hadn't really done before. Put a video up straight away. Literally, everyone was like, "Yeah, it's all fine." Tempo could slow down a little bit, just put more weight on the bar. Whereas in my head, I was thinking, well, am I doing this right? But then all of a sudden you get it clicked. And then you go from there. And I think that's the important thing about, that community side of things and that culture side of things, because you see other people in other situations to yourself and be like, well, they're still doing the bare minimum and making either more progress. All right, well, maybe I need to do the bare minimum from there.
And the goal with it is, by the way, isn't to make people jump through hoops. Like, just in case people think like, oh, it's just like, it's a cult or whatever. Like, I fucking wish it was. Would be a better business. CrossFit's a cult. That's what you need to watch out for. But the goal of it is actually, and I've said this before on other podcasts, maybe on the one previous review, like, what I'm trying to do is, where it's an easy area, like, all of us can go to the gym and put more weight on the bar. But what's difficult, like, sometimes what's difficult is having an awkward conversation at work or with your partner, or learning a new skill, or realizing that actually at the minute you don't enjoy your job and you want to change careers, or whatever it is in your life, these problems that we have. What I'm trying to do is say to men, look, here's a really easy area where you can practice overcoming resistance, where you can get a video. Oh, I don't want to get a video. How's it going to go? Like, propping your phone up, get a bench press video. Oh, I'll put it in the group. Loads of people give us feedback. Actually, now I feel a little bit more confident about doing that next time. It's not, even though, yes, you're getting something from that video itself, it is so much more than just that. And the lessons from it can apply like widely across our whole lives. And that's why, we see so much change in all the men that are involved, because the easiest thing to change for me is your physique. It's the easiest one to track. Like, you go in the gym, you can see your weight going up, you can see the reps improving. You don't have a scoreboard at work for your relationship with your boss, or with other people at work, or with your kids, or with your partner, or your cooking skills, or whatever it is. You're learning a new language. They're like kind of like hard to see. They're much more difficult. This really, particularly if you've got me on your side, should be easy. Like, it should be that, like, it's fun. We're challenging you. But at the end of the day, it's just the gym. Don't take it too seriously. Like, have a bit of a laugh have of it and enjoy the crack with the lads. And by doing that, you end up doing it for the long term. And going back to the beginning, the trends of the people that are in the longest, no coincidence they're in the best shape. They've been training for 3, 4, 5 years. Why not you? Why not you in 4 years? Why not me being on a podcast talking about you?
Yeah, definitely. And I think I think that you kind of, I was going to touch on that really. I think sometimes people think that when it comes to getting results or anything like that, it has to be like being dead miserable and serious and that sort of stuff. Whereas actually, like a couple of things that you've touched on there is enjoying it. Like it should be something that you can enjoy, because everything, I'm always a fact of the reason why we're going to the gym and want to get in shape is so that we can go on holidays, do something, feel better in this or feel better for that, whatever, on whatever level that falls into, or just be, being a better mindset to spend time with kids or whatever else from that. That's the whole reason why we do it. It's not a case of like, hitting bigger numbers is cool, getting faster times is cool, but really we want to be fit enough so that we can go and do whatever we want to do.
It's got to be a net positive.
Yeah, definitely. One thing that I want to touch on, obviously, we've said all about that, about the guidelines, the rules, the minimum that we need to do, and I think sometimes from there, it's kind of that thing of, well, how do you do it? And I'll say this because I know you do it. Ross does. He's a man of his word. If he says he'll do something, he'll do something. And I know, obviously, I've never worked night shifts. I don't think. Yeah, I like my sleep. I like my sleep too much. In fact, I actually. We were doing. There was some UFC on. I don't know if it was John Jones and
Carney the weekend.
Yeah. Stayed up. I was like, oh my god, it's like literally the next day. I was like, I'm gonna have to go to bed. This is too late for me. But anyway, everything like that in terms of like sticking to the training that you're doing. And I think a couple of weeks ago, you put something out which I thought was really, really good, saying that you're going to do 15 minutes of exercise each time. I think you're on I think you're in Thailand. And that's the thing where, like, you've said you're going to do something. It wasn't the best, or the most optimal, sorry. But you did what you said. How do you find everything that the philosophies that you put out there? Does that keep you on track and make you kind of like, look, lads, this is what we're aiming for? If that kind of like makes sense, was it? Yeah.
No, I get it, mate. Yeah, obviously I'm traveling the world. I left the UK in 2020. Well, originally in 2020. And then COVID hit, and then since then I've been officially left in like 2021 October, September. So I've been traveling a long time. So like I've had the experience of like wanting to do other things, like and then realizing, like I still need to train to like this is my job. For me, it's not as much of an issue because my passion, but I still always everywhere I go, I'm planning when I'm going to go to the gym, my diet, everything. But also at the same time, to be clear on that, I'm massively flexible with my diet. Like I want to enjoy the food in each place that I am. I'm currently in Switzerland with my friend. We're actually going to make homemade burgers after this.
Nice.
But all these challenges, if you like, are for me part of like being sort of the man, not to the group. I'm not doing it for the group, but also like to myself, like keep my own word. Like that's how I like being the man. It's just me, myself. Like it's just doing what I said I was going to do. I learned that from one of my mentors when I was very young, Paul Mort, and then other people in my life who I've looked up to, Jocko Willink, David Goggins, all these people, famous people, but also people that I've known, just doing what you said you were going to do and making it a non-negotiable and having your own and finding time to do it. And also then realizing that there's what your minimum is, but during times of maybe it's a specific goal or pressure, what do you personally thrive off? Well, I know, for me personally, I love nothing better than challenges with like-minded men in my group. So like if I'm going to do something, you can guarantee I'm going to tell these lads about it. Or if I'm going to like want to really push myself, I'll be calling people out. I'll be saying that I'm going to beat them in this run. I'm shit at running. I've done a 10-mile run today, right? Because I bet someone in the group who I coach at the minute that Newcastle would beat Man United in the League Cup final. Obviously, Man United won, and I ran the 10 miles today. It was pissing down with rain. I didn't want to do it. I ran on Monday to like kind of find my feet and see how I was going. One of my mates messages, no word of a lie, right? And over the years, I've done 35-mile challenge running. I've done some decent runs. One of my best mates messages a screenshot of my Strava time and said, "Fucking hell, what were you carrying?" And I was just like, just myself, mate. Just myself. He was like, and it just circled my minutes per mile time, which was like something ridiculous, like 10 and a half or 11 minutes. I was finding my way around the local area, right? It was only like 8 mile or 7 mile or something I'd done. And then today I'd done the 10. That's just one example. But what I find sometimes is, and this is just being brutally honest, All of what have an ego. And sometimes if you don't say something like publicly, you don't mind disappointing yourself. Like you don't mind failing. If you're disappointing yourself, you just no one knows, who cares? But for me, I literally care so much. Not about anyone, by the way, on social media, but the lads that I coach, like to me, they're like my friends or my family. So my friends even more so. If I say something publicly, exercising, which is one of my ones for this year. So one of my goals for this year was I want to exercise every single day. So we're now March the 8th.
Yeah.
And I've done it so far. And I'll see if I can go for the rest of the year. Now, full disclosure on that, my other goals on that were exercise every single day, post every day on social media, uh, read every day and journal every day. I've missed 3 days on. I know exactly what I've done on all of them because that's what I'm like as a person. I've missed 3 days on social media. I can tell you when they were. They were last week at the snowboarding event. And what I had at that moment was a bit of a disconnect because also I'm very much about living in the moment, enjoying what I'm doing. And I had men who paid a lot of money to spend time with us. And I made a decision. I could have been more organized. There's a lesson there in that as well. But that week I went, look, I'm going to have to catch up next week and do 2 posts a day on some days to mean that at the end of the year, my total's the same, which is what I'll do. But it doesn't all go perfect. And again, even in that little challenge, reading, journaling, my reading's pretty good. I think I read quite regularly. Journaling, I find quite difficult, which is why it's in there because I want to get better at it. Posting on social media, I wanted to see when people say you should post every day, does it affect your business? I actually don't think it helps your business. I've only done it a little bit. I don't think it makes that much difference, but I'm going to do it because I said I was going to do it. There's a discipline in that, right? And taking accountability of it. And also opening up when you don't get it right. The exercise I can do. But even in there, right, for me, the reason it wasn't just exercise every day, because I knew from the start I would exercise every day, no problem. But for all of us, right? So, like for some of you listening, it might be that you're very good at business, maybe that you've got an excellent relationship with your wife. Maybe through working with me, you realize this is something I encourage the men to do. We've done this last week at snowboarding. We've done it in Thailand. It was a aesthetically trained event in Thailand. We had an event in Lisbon. All these events, I do that goal set and do the different areas, and I actually get them to highlight their strength because we're working on fitness, working on health, working on physique. That's obviously what I want to improve first. And that's what I can help you with. That's the only area I class myself as an expert. And through that, sometimes people look and go, "Oh, well, I'm a six, and you're an eight." And I'm like, well, it's my fucking job. I should hope that I'm doing well in that area. But also realizing what your strengths are and not sacrificing them. Those you listening, you might look at someone, might be me, might be some of my clients online, you go, "Oh my God, he's in the best shape. I want his life." That person might have a terrible relationship with their kids. I
Yeah.
hope they don't if they work with me, by the way, because I'm encouraging them to not to. But what I mean is, you don't know the full story behind it. That person might not have the business pressure that you've got. They might not have the time to learn a new language, to play the guitar, to learn an instrument, to further themselves in terms of self development because everything's going into their physique. So it's an approach, and this is more this year and more probably the last 2 years of my own development is saying to people, look, I'm going to help you and I want to focus on the fitness and health and physique. But please don't lose sight of people call them James Boardman, someone I looked at who I've worked with in the past, one of my good friends, Paul Maud, all these different people you might have heard from online. They all have this 4 pillars, 4 foundations, some of it's 5 areas. Every coach online normally has a way of assessing your life. I actually personally like the analogy the best of spinning plates. And if you think of your health and your physique, your career and business, your relationships, and your self development, instead of pillars, think of spinning plates. Because what happens is if you take an eye off one of them, it will fall. And when one falls, you have to stop doing everything else in the other three to fix it. If you have a terrible relationship or you go through a breakup, you normally stop doing everything else because you're trying to fix that. The goal, ideally, is to keep them all spinning optimally. So that's how I try to look at them. And it's realizing that, listen, if you just completely neglect one, it's going to fall. And when it falls, it's going to impact your business. And all of us as well, coming right back around full circle, all of us have different goals that link to it differently. So depending on the person that's in the group, if they're mega money motivated, nothing wrong with that, by the way. If they're mega motivated by wanting to pull birds or have a better relationship, or they want to obviously have a physique or compete, there's a different conversation to be had. So you say to them, right, look, you might not think that self-development's important, but self-development might be meditating, might be journaling, might be learning a new language, might be learning a new skill, might improve your concentration or your focus, which then in turn allows you to improve your business. And it means that your time in your business is more efficient because you've got those lessons from the concentration and the meditation or whatever you've learned there. The time in your business is more efficient, so you don't have to work as many hours, which then allows you more time on your health. Then your health improves, which means you've got a better body, and then theoretically you can go out and pull more birds. But all links around, depending on how you want to do it. And you can do that chain either way. Your whole life's interlinked. When I was younger, and the difference since Steve's joined in philosophies, I really didn't notice that, to be honest. Like, even aesthetically trained now, I was 7 years old. In the beginning, I was very much like, you will train 5 days a week, go fuck you. Like, that was my attitude. Like, I didn't touch on any of this stuff. If anyone is, I've got older and I've realized what works for me, and I've listened to the people who are far wiser than me who I've worked with and who I've been fortunate enough to be mentored by, I've decided, actually, do you know what? I want to win in terms of health and physique, but not at all costs, because I know it's going to come. I trust myself and I back myself in my coaching. So let's not fucking throw everything at it and ruin my social life and ruin my business and all these different aspects of my life. Yeah, in short, I get stuff done and I help the mentor and coach get stuff done as well.
Yeah, no, I think that was a good explanation from that, and I think with anything, you do develop and grow and change things from there. And I said right at the start, we've spoken a lot. I think there's a lot of thoughts and philosophies on how to approach things, which I think we both agree with. And I wanted to touch on that because you do say, if you set out to do it, you'll get that stuff done. And I think, with anything, everyone needs that somebody to lead by example, but then also be like, just basically understand, because I think too often, we've touched on it a couple of times, I want to do this, this, and this, and then all of a sudden other coaches, other trainers just say, yeah, that's fine. Whereas actually, again, trying to tie everything together, there's the rules that you do at the start. Show me what you can do, because it's the same with exercises. I'll say to people, like strength standards, right? We can progress to doing this once you've shown me you can do this, and this, right?
Yep.
That's how we progress from there. It's a little bit like you wouldn't rock up to like progressing through school. I'm not going to do my GCSEs. Well, you kind of need them to go and do that. Like there's certain things, and like unfortunately or fortunately, that's just life, how that works. However, there is that scope for flexibility in there.
From your point of view, Steve, with obviously since you've worked with us, what's changed for you? Like what I think obviously your strength's ridiculous. That is like, I think everyone watching and listening, if you look at Steve's training videos, obviously you're coaching people already. But for you, what's changed? Like what benefits have you had? Like how do you feel about it so far?
I think for me, the biggest thing is that like that you can, for everybody, it's a little bit like what you said about, you can put out like maybe an alter ego or a persona out there and look as though like everything's together, but like what you said, you don't know what's going on there. So like for me, for example, there's a couple of other things going on in terms of, Mrs. doing her PGC, so she's only got like a student loan from there. There's stresses from there trying to fit things in. Sharing a car, that means that my training schedule is all these things where actually like when you sit back about it, like it could be a lot worse. Like I still
But
get
on that as well,
the
just to jump in and give you credit, there's a lot of times where you've posted in the group, my missus has got the car, I'm stuck at the gym or I'm stuck at home, so I'm doing X, Y, or Z. Like even then in that, like, but this is the point of the group, and this is where I think for my own like sharing, if you like, in the group setting inspires other people, which I didn't really fully appreciate how much that would. I never predicted that impact, but then all of a sudden they see me when I was in Vietnam. I was on a boat, and I was like, if I need exercise today, I'm gonna have to go outside and do press ups on the roof of this boat. And like it was like I was like, my last bike, yeah, I was like, come get a video of this because at least then people know I'm doing it. But that thing, but you've been at home, Steve, you've been in the gym. You go, I'm at the gym for half an hour longer than I thought I was going to be for whatever reason. And you don't have to give everyone the full information. You've never said in the group before, oh, this is why. But eventually some people do. You say it to me in conversation.
Yeah.
But the messages and the point is, here's what's happened. Here's how I'm making the best of it. All of a sudden, there can be, I've got lads in America, I've got lads in Australia. Recently, at the minute, I've had a few people get injured. I've had lads tear their bicep. Dom broke his wrist snowboarding last week before. He's still training, still doing what you can do. And all of a sudden, I only have so much life experience. But if I've got a group with 100 men, you're getting 100 times the lessons, I think.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, you see him do that and you go, but you know what? He's broke his wrist, but he's just doing like what he can. And if that'd be me, because people will think, oh, well, you know what? You tell yourself in your head, if this was you, like if it was him, he would give up. Or if it was him, he wouldn't bother. No one else would do it then. And then all of a sudden you see people who are like, actually, no, do you know what? Like you're on the row, or you're fitting an extra workout, or you're doing some mobility or whatever it is, and people go, all right, yeah, like he's just doing. It's not perfect, but he's just doing the best that he can. And as long as all of us do that, I think it'll be a better place. The mentality around it, Stephen, like obviously sharing and stuff and posting in the group, and do you find like that competitive edge has helped you? Do you feel like you've kind of like, because obviously I know you've set some targets this year. You're going to do the charity deadlift and powerlifting in Leeds in April.
That's a lot. That's a lot sooner. I did actually say to compete there at the end of the year, so I'm just going to dip me toe in the water and see what.
So you've got that one, but again with that though, and the smile on his face was watching YouTube. As soon as I say that, he's like, "Fuck, he's saying it publicly." But that's what you do. You go, now it's out there publicly. You have to do it.
Yeah.
But like with that, do you feel like you've kind of leveled up your own? Like, do you feel like your goals across the board have improved because all of a sudden you've got this like accountability in that, and you're seeing other people inspire you?
Definitely, I think, and probably for a lot of people listening, like at school, uni, played rugby, you're part of a team. Started doing powerlifting, and I had a couple of lads that I trained with regularly, and it felt like a team. But obviously, it's an individual sport when you go on there.
Yeah.
But then when lads move away or you start training, I did feel, I'll be honest with you, I probably felt a little bit lost. And it's like, it's no fun training by yourself. Yeah, you have a coach and you send videos and that sort of stuff. But having part of that is kind of that thing of like, I'm very much like I used to love playing rugby. I sometimes have a run out every now and again, but I love being part of that, the social side of it.
It's the crack,
like, still going 100%, and I think it's that thing of once you become part of that, it's like you then get that not to be cheesy, but you then get that fire inside you to begin to be like, yeah, actually I do like a challenge. So when Joe messaged me and was like, do you fancy doing and that's literally all he said. It was just like one line, do you fancy? And I was like, all right then. All right.
There's going to be some other lads doing that as well.
Yeah.
There's going to be some other lads doing it as well.
And it's that thing, and it's not because like, I'm probably compared to where my best deadlift has been, I don't know how far I'll be away from that, but that's not the point of it. I've said I'm going to do it, and I'm going to enjoy the training for it, and that's where, I think for a lot of people listening, like that's that incentive. That's that incentive for it to go from there. Because like I say, I know for me sometimes that whole thing of, what's that phrase, like no man is an island, like you need to be connected. You need to be connected to something.
It's massive. Community's everything. Genuinely, I think it's everything. Just one thing there, this will probably and I really do think this will help everyone listening. I think maybe it's when you look at Steve or me or anyone that you look to in the fitness industry and their numbers, and when they're lifting, like Steve said it there, like he's not got his best deadlift at the minute. Like when I was running today, I felt like shit, and I was running at the time. I didn't necessarily feel like shit. I was, confident that I was happy enough when I started running. However, I quickly realized it was not going to be a fast run. If anything, I was like, oh my God. And I've just learned on Strava how you can turn on that setting where the guy tells you run like your speed. And it's like mile 1, 9 minutes, 30 seconds. And I was like, fucking hell, who's running this? I was like, what's going on here? So like, obviously, like what I'm saying is, but even I do it and Steve's doing it there, and you listening will do this and try to stop or try to have context, right? We always remember what best. And then what happens is, because we remember it, we'll refer to it as if it's a constant. Like we'll always then compare it back to my best deadlift, my best run. Well, yeah, when I done my best run, I was running. It's like, 3, 4, 5 times a week. I was lean. I was a smaller. But then all of a sudden, like today, I wasn't thinking about that when I compared myself to it, even though that's comparing myself to myself, which is fine. You want to beat who you were and all that, and I'm sure, and that's what Steve's doing as well. But actually, there's much more to it. It's never just as straightforward as this is your best. And it's constant. And I think particularly a lot of newcomers in the gym, I hear lads sometimes maybe they don't get a PB or they don't add weight at the bar, and then they think that the session was like a failure. And it's like, listen, like you're training max or being training at the top end of your best lifts, you're very, very rarely doing that. It's kind of like 1 step forward, 2 steps back, sometimes 3 forward, then it's, and you're constantly going backwards and forwards, and it's very, very slow progress. So never, ever, ever judge yourself against your best day. Like, just judge yourself like where you are now and what direction you're headed in, and try to have a bit more context on it. Because I've noticed myself doing that recently as well. So when you said that, I thought I'd just touch on it.
Definitely, yeah. Because you think, oh yeah, I'll be able to do this. One thing I always like to, and I think I've actually mentioned this a couple of times, We went for a walk up Rosebery Topping, so it's like a little walk where my mum lives up near Whitby, and we went for a walk, and there's a pub at the bottom called the King's Head. Walked down, and I was absolutely so thankful just to sit down and just be like, right, let's get some food. And my mum was like, hey, you once ran up there, and I was thinking, like, when did I run up there? Actually, turned out I ran up there when I was 14, and I was thinking, and like, my miss was like, oh, how do you reckon? And in my head, I was thinking, yeah, that's about 15 years ago that I did that. There's no way that I want to do that. So if I was to compare myself to like 14-year-old me, I'm definitely a lot heavier than what I was when I was 14, and I've done nowhere near as running. So sometimes that comparing of it is like, yeah, it's
just compare yourself to what you said you were going to do. It's as simple as that. Like, definitely. Did you do what you said you were going to do? You can't always. There's a great quote, and I'm probably going to mess it up, but it's that you're not entitled to the fruits of your labor, only the labor. Which is that you're only entitled to putting the effort in. You don't necessarily get to dictate how it works out. And that can be in terms of weight loss when it comes to check-in. It can be your performance on the day when you go to a deadlift competition. All you can control is your effort in the lead up to the event, but you don't necessarily get to dictate the outcome. So if you can just enjoy the labor itself as opposed to the outcome and not pin your happiness on that, everyone will be much happier.
I was gonna usually the last question, which you'll be used to. I always like to ask the take home points or words of wisdom, but you've got a bucket full. You've given some already. But for everything that we've chatted about there, and I did want to touch on like the process, like the full journey, if you like, because having done it, experienced it, I feel like there was a lot of key points in there that people can take away either when looking for a coach or actually looking to make a change or a transformation. I think there were some useful points in there. But from everything that we've chatted about, what would be your take home points or words of wisdom for people listening?
Well, particularly for men, I think that the power of community is unquestionable. I think that getting in, as cringy as it sounds, like spend time with like-minded individuals and all this, but it does really, really make a difference. Try to do it with people that you genuinely bond with, or you could see yourself aspiring to want to do what they're doing. No one starts where they're going to end up. So it's not that you don't wait until you're ready to sign up for these things. That's the very nature of it. People often are waiting. A classic one is they'll wait until the last moment you have a point of no return and then you take action. Take action now. Like, whether that's joining a gym, whether it's joining an online community, sign up for a program. And by doing that, the lessons that you get along the way will inform you as to how to move forward. No one has it all planned out. Even just in this short podcast, I've talked about how stuff I started off and my attitude has changed over the past 7 years with Aesthetically Trained. We're now doing events. I never thought I would do that. I'm then getting lessons from the events about how I can combine online coaching and in-person coaching. And then as well, I'm realizing that actually that only applies to some of the men that I'm coaching as well. It's not that nothing ever is set in stone, and be wary of people that speak in absolutes or that are too agreeable. Your coach or people that you want to work with should be, to an extent, willing to disagree with you. Not disagree over disagreeable's sake, but test the water. Like, if you say something to them and fine well it's not right, see if they're going to call you out on it, because at the end of the day, you need someone who's going to hold you accountable. Steve would hold you accountable. I'll hold you accountable. And in the long run, if you're in a group of like-minded, is the quote, and the way people say it, of people, of men who are trying to inspire you and motivate you, those times that you do get called out, those times that they do hold you accountable, it'll be done in the right way. It won't be your mate or your partner or someone at work who's trying to dig you out, who's saying, "Oh, been dieting recently, you're looking a bit thin. Oh, you've been doing a muscle building phase, you're looking fat." People who don't understand the journey. It will be people who are giving you good advice based on their own experience, which is the same journey that you want to go through as well. So that will be my advice for sure. Like, try to get into a community, and whether it's online, in person. Obviously, you can reach out to me. You can reach out to Steve. I both consider we're experts is what we do. Steve's had some of the very, very, very best people in the absolute world on this podcast. And I don't mean myself, I mean genuinely, like, unbelievable guests. So if there's ever anyone whose brains you should be picking, it's Steve. And people, that's what I will be doing. And that's what I do. Like, Steve's an asset to my community and to my coaching program to have him working with me. So surround yourself with people like that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, I always have to think, oh yeah, there's a couple of episodes that I've done now, so there's a couple of people on there. But no, I think that was some really good take home points from there. And like I say, I think there was some useful content in there. Now, if anyone's been living under a rock and don't know where to find you, don't know where to reach out to you, or have got any questions about what we've chatted about today, or want to have a look at like the 28-day challenge or anything like that, where can people find you or reach out to you?
Well, aesthetically trained, would you believe, is quite hard to spell. So you can screenshot this if you're on YouTube, and that's how you spell it. You can screenshot my t-shirt. But I'm sure Steve will put it in the show notes. But aesthetically trained, Ross Mackenley, as I say at the beginning of every video that I do. But yeah, if you search my name, search the business name, www.aestheticallytrained.net. And you can apply for the 28-day challenge there. That is where entry level, that's where it all starts. But then it does go into the inner circle, which is the community. And then we also have the 12-week transformation. We didn't really touch on that there, but the 12-week transformation is for business owners, for people who maybe don't have the time to be on Facebook quite as much. They want that support and they might go on every so often, but they want that next level of coaching where I literally do everything for them. That's an option as well. So we've got the 28-day challenge, the inner circle, the 12-week transformation, and also, as Steve touched on, we've got aesthetically trained events, but they're only for men who are involved in the inner circle or the 12 weeks. So if you want to come to Marbella in the summer, that's my next big one. Or if you want to come to climb Everest with me, because that's something I'd love to do in the future as well. And who knows where else we've been to Thailand, we've been to Portugal, we've just been snowboarding. If you want to get involved with that, with a bit of an aesthetically trained flair, the whole journey starts with the 28-day challenge.
Awesome. 100%. For anyone, I know, like I say, I've been doing it myself. Yeah, it's a challenge. It's not easy, but if it was easy, everyone would be doing it. So 100%, check that out. I was looking forward to this for a long time, Ross. Thanks a lot for taking the time to jump on. Always good to catch up with you.
Thanks, mate.
Thanks a lot to everyone listening, and I will see you all next week.